Exposed, the incredible moment a CEO transformed the life of a struggling widow with 3 kids. Sarah's world revolved around the whirring of laundry, the rumble of grocery carts scraping against concrete, and the treacherous weight of her unpaid bills. Each morning felt like she was trying to breathe underwater, the pressure surrounding her, pushing her deeper into despair. After losing Michael, her husband, in that tragic car accident, any inkling of her aspirations slipped further away. She wasn't just a widow, she was a single mother wrestling to secure the next meal for her 3 children. The fridge was empty again, and she had to pretend to smile when her kids asked about dinner. Hope felt miles away, buried under layers of regret and resignation. Amidst the noise in her head, endless worry dangled in front of her like a heavy fog. Sarah clung to one last dream: to design. Drawing had once been her solace, a canvas releasing colorful thoughts she couldn't voice. But the yearnings for painted splashes were muffled by the harsh reality of life. Every unused morning was an echo of lost potential. "I can't let them down," she muttered to the empty kitchen, her fingers clenching around the pen she hadn't touched in months. As she shuffled her children through another chaotic evening, balancing homework, dinner, and a work-from-home job that barely cut it, the ringing phone felt like an unwelcome intrusion. A foreboding text from her landlord flickered on the screen: "Rent is due. No more extensions." Sarah's heart plummeted. She stood frozen, muscles tight, mind racing. What could she sacrifice this time? The unbearable thoughts swirled: is it the kids' after-school activities? A little less food? More excuses at work? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack stood atop his skyscraper, viewing the same city that felt so disconnected to him. Surrounded by wealth, he remained oblivious to the struggles of those like Sarah. Their worlds seemed galaxies apart, yet something had ignited within him, a spark lit when he witnessed a speech. The raw emotion she poured into her words snatched his breath. He didn't know it yet, but that captivating voice would soon pull him into her relentless quest for survival. The air in Sarah's living room grew thicker as she faced her children, their faces bright with innocence, unaware of the weight she carried. Each cheery smile became a dagger in her heart. Should she let them see her falter? Should she hide her dwindling hopes for their sake? The conflict twisted inside her, a tug-of-war between dreams and duty. What if I fail them again? She wondered. The possibility of realizing her dreams around this imposing man seemed so surreal, yet tantalizingly out of reach. Jack's presence could offer a new opportunity, yet the very thought pushed her to question her worth. Could she really trust a man like him? And what would he want in return? Just when she felt she could dare to hope, life's cruel clock ticked louder, reminding her, the past fed on vulnerabilities, ready to strike at the faintest gleam. And then, that dormant ache broke through. A hidden secret regarding her husband emerged from Jack's world, a tie they never expected, yet one that could challenge everything they built. The tension spiraled, threatening to unravel as Sarah faced the final choice: would she embrace the light of possibility, risking herself, or retreat into the shadows where she felt safe? As her resolve faltered, Sarah stood at the precipice of an uncertain future, heart racing, breaths short and jagged, unable to discern if courage or fear would lead her next. In that cruel stretch of silence, it became painfully clear, this was just the beginning, and she had yet to face the real reckoning. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen, illuminating piles of crumpled bills piled on the table like unwanted memories. Sarah stared at them, her heart fluttering with anxiety, yet a new determination flickered in her chest. That determination nagged at her, unrelenting, urging her to stop merely surviving and start fighting for something more. Today felt different, perhaps it was the stirrings of hope sparked by Jack's unexpected interest in her. Clenching her fists, she took a deep breath, trying to embody the strength she'd admired in those who inspired her. The thought of Jack lingered, his poised demeanor, the unwavering gaze he had fixed on her during her speech. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like her voice mattered, like she could channel her grief into something constructive, like a signal that transcended despair. She reached for her sketchbook, fingertips grazing its cover, remembering the rush of inspiration that came with creation. Yet the fabric of her reality felt like barbed wire, sharp and painful, and she hesitated. The kids scampered into the room, their laughter dancing through the heavy air, shattering the remnants of her doubt. "Mom! Can we go to the park today?" they chorused. Their boundless energy tugged at her heart, a reminder of why she couldn't let fear dictate her life. "Sure," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. She needed to do this for them and for herself. As they made their way to the park, the vibrant colors of the world unfolded around her, mirroring the rising elation in her soul. The sound of children playing, the scent of grass fresh with dew, and the laughter carried on the wind slowly stitched warmth back into her heart. Sitting on a bench, she watched them swing higher, and in that moment, a flicker of inspiration ignited like a slowly revolving star within her. Maybe, just maybe, she could reclaim her dream of designing, not merely for her own passion but as a message for her children that life was still theirs to mold. While her children played, she sketched on the back of an envelope, envisioning a design that intersected elegance and function, things she longed to create. The idea began to unfold like the pages of a long-forgotten book, mapping out plans that had been restlessly sleeping in her mind. In that electric moment, she felt more than just a struggling widow. She was a designer, an artist turning her sorrow into strength. Later that night, Sarah tucked her children into bed and stared at the sketches she'd made. A sense of accomplishment radiated through her, however, the self-doubt returned, weaving doubt back into the fabric of her resolve. She recalled the intricacies of Jack's world, the daunting expectations, the gilded cages of corporate life. What really awaited her if she dared to push into his domain? Could she truly bring her ideas to life amidst towering skyscrapers, or would they simply wither beneath unyielding scrutiny? That question loomed over her like a heavy cloud. The tension knotted in her stomach, bringing forth a flicker of regret at the very thought of approaching a man so seemingly far removed from her existence. Yet, buried beneath that fear lay the spark of resolve. "It's now or never," she reminded herself, visualizing the moment she'd first connected with Jack. Emboldened by her sketches, Sarah began to meticulously map out a plan. Who could she reach out to? What would her first step be? Every unanswered question ignited a fervor. She was no longer a passive participant in her life. The artist within her was awakening, driven by necessity and an insatiable hunger for change. As she drifted off to sleep that night, visions of designs danced in her mind, but a deeper urge pulled at her, a burning curiosity to discover the connection between her past and Jack's world. Perhaps that hidden tie was something she needed to confront and understand. It was time for her to step outside the shadows and into the light of her dreams. Little did she know, the next encounter with Jack would reveal layers of truth that would challenge everything she believed about herself and the legacy of her husband. Could she handle the revelation without it breaking the fragile foundation she had begun to rebuild? The moment of truth loomed just ahead. She could feel it stirring like a tempest on the horizon. The sun rose over Sarah's neighborhood, casting a warm hue that danced across her kitchen walls. Armed with her sketches, she stood at a crossroads, hesitant yet invigorated by the call to action. Her heart raced, the sketches clutched tightly in one hand, the other poised over the phone. Today was the day she would step into Jack's corporate world. The moment she pressed the buttons to dial Jack's office, her heart thundered like a drum's relentless beat. What would she say? The flutter of uncertainty stirred within her, the stakes felt high. Sarah inhaled, steadying herself against the tide of anxiety that threatened to pull her under. Could this leap into the unknown truly change everything? The phone rang. On the other end, Jack's voice greeted her, smooth, confident, and unmistakably curious. "Sarah. What a surprise. How can I help you today?" His warmth cut through her trepidation, and she slipped into her prepared pitch, the words unfolding like an artist revealing a canvas. "Jack, I've been working on some design concepts and I would be grateful for your opinion. I know I may not have direct experience in corporate design, but I'm driven and ready to learn." There was a silence, a moment where she feared he might dismiss her idea. But instead, he responded with enthusiasm, "I'd love to see what you've created. How about we meet tomorrow? I can arrange a session for you with my team." The invitation ignited a wildfire of excitement in her gut. She accomplished what she thought was impossible. That night, she barely slept, the thrill of possibility spiraling through her even as the doubts ebbed and flowed like the tide. The following morning, she approached the meeting room at Jack's office, steadying her breath as she stepped into the polished space. Her skin prickled under the watchful eyes of the team, their demeanor poised and professional, a stark contrast to her own nervousness. This was her moment, and she needed to embrace every second. As she spread her sketches across the table, explaining the inspiration behind each line, Sarah found her footing. The expression in their eyes began to shift, her words resonating with them like a heartstring struck just right. She spoke of her vision, merging function and comfort, as if their wants and her dreams were simultaneous objectives. Questions arose, some faceless notions of skepticism draping a shadow over the engagement, but she faced them head-on. "What's the market value for emotional connectivity in product design?" one team member queried, a smirk hinting at disbelief. In that moment, Sarah drew from the depths of her lived experiences, reflecting on how personal stories could evoke empathy in design. She spoke passionately, her voice unwavering, outlining the need for products that held meaning, that shared life experiences rather than just serving utility. It was a perspective outside the numbers, and Sarah could feel momentum shifting in her favor. As the meeting concluded and she gathered her sketches, Jack approached her, excitement evident on his face. "Your ideas are thought-provoking, Sarah. You've opened up a pathway I never considered before." He paused, a flicker of something deeper passing through his eyes. "I think we could incorporate your insights into our next project. Let's make this a collaboration." Sarah could hardly process the gravity of his words. This opportunity could not only redefine her professional identity but reframe her grief into purpose, filling a void she thought would remain empty forever. But as she left the office, a shadow threaded back through her mind. What if her designs failed? How would she handle the judgment from the corporate world? Unbeknownst to her, this was only the beginning of an odyssey that would confront her not just with external challenges in design, but with the profound personal truths she had yet to unravel, truths tied to her late husband's legacy in Jack's world. The path ahead was laden with potential, yet daunting. Sarah could feel the currents shifting, pulling her into deeper waters, where her growth would be tested against the tide of vulnerability and success. What awaited her at the next meeting? Applause or disillusionment? Only time would tell, but she was ready to confront whatever came with unwavering resolve. The question lingered, would she swim or sink? The following week heralded a new chapter for Sarah, one cloaked in anticipation and trepidation. Her collaboration with Jack had begun, the initial sparks of creativity igniting late nights and intense brainstorming sessions. The energy was palpable, each meeting a dance of ideas, bouncing between pragmatism and artistry. But despite her busy schedule, a void lingered beneath Sarah's resolved exterior. In the days that followed, she immersed herself in research, peeling back layers of design theory intertwined with her own life experiences. Every morning, she found herself staring again at the faded photographs of her husband, their children cradled between them in laughter. The weight of loss often crept back, ghosting her resolve as she tied her personal memories into her work. Was it safe to merge her grief with creation? As her engagement grew, so did the pressure. Jack's team began to expect more from her, the initial enthusiasm turned into demands as they neared project milestones. Questions percolated through her mind, both professional and deeply personal. Was she truly qualified to lead this design? The thought of her shortcomings haunted her moments of quiet, gnawing on the edges of her focus like a relentless tide eroding a once sturdy shoreline. One particularly fraught afternoon, the team convened for a strategic review. They had focused on one of her concepts, and the scrutiny fell heavily upon her. "This product seems emotionally driven," Sarah, one colleague commented, crossing her arms defensively. "How will consumers respond to an idea that feels so personal?" A wave of self-doubt crashed over Sarah, but she stifled her instincts to retreat. "Emotional connection is vital," she asserted, her voice stronger than she felt. "In our rapidly changing world, consumers crave authenticity. They want to engage with design that resonates on a deeper level." But the doubt lingered in the air like a mist. Fortunately, Jack sidestepped the exchange, deftly steering attention to the project's objectives, yet Sarah felt the chips shifting beneath her. The meeting concluded, but the emotional weight of that moment pressed against her chest, knowing she had shared a fragment of herself that others questioned. Returning to the coffee station, Sarah took a breath, the steam curling gracefully toward the ceiling like her own uncertain aspirations. Jack came over, a reassuring presence, yet the tension of the meeting lingered around them. "You did well, even when they pushed back," he said, his eyes warm with genuine concern. "Remember, challenging the status quo is where innovation starts. I appreciate it, but I can't shake the feeling that they don't quite see me. This is personal for me, but how can I convince them it matters?" She confessed, searching for clarity buried within her turmoil. Jack nodded thoughtfully. "They'll see your passion if you let them. Share more about why this matters to you, Sarah. We've all got our stories. It connects us, makes our work meaningful. Use that." A flicker of light ignited within her. Was this the opportunity to leverage her truth, the emotional backbone of her work? But as she left the office that day, her hand clutching her bag, she wrestled with a conflicting emotion. Was she ready to expose her vulnerability to the very people who were questioning her? The next meeting beckoned, her mind racing with possibilities. Would embracing her personal journey invite understanding or judgment? As she stood at the threshold of her professional development, Sarah faced a choice: would she continue to hide her truths cloaked in her designs, or would she bravely entwine them to elevate her work? The unknown loomed large, and she could no longer ignore the weight of her choices. The moment had arrived to reveal herself fully. In the silence that enveloped her, the question loomed large: what would it mean to fully embrace her past in pursuit of an uncertain future? The morning light streamed into the office, blanketing Sarah with warmth, yet its brightness felt misplaced against the tumult brewing in her mind. Gathered around the large conference table, the team buzzed with anticipation. Today was pivotal, the moment Sarah had both invited and dreaded. Would she unveil her truths or retreat into the shadows of polished professionalism? As she took her seat, she scanned the room, each face a blend of curiosity and skepticism. They needed to see her, not just as a designer but as a person, an instinct deep within her urged to be heard. Jack settled beside her, a steadying influence. "Remember what we talked about. You're not just defending your design, you're sharing your narrative," he whispered, his tone imbued with belief. It should have fortified her, yet it merely amplified her anxiety. The discussions began, flowing through project updates until they circled back to her initial concept. It was time. Gathering her courage, Sarah raised her hand, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. "I'd like to share something," she declared. Silence engulfed the room, a thick tension wrapping around her words. "This design stems from my life experiences, particularly my last few years. I know what it means to lose, to yearn for connection during fleeting moments." The murmurs of disbelief echoed softly, but she pressed on, grounding herself in the truth of her story. "I lost my husband, and in that loss, I found the essence of what mattered: memory, love, and the stories we share." She inhaled deeply, the words flowing with conviction. "This product is not just about aesthetics. It's about creating spaces that echo the emotional ties we hold with those we've lost and those we love." A few heads nodded, but a skeptic raised an eyebrow. "You think consumers will connect with this on a personal level?" Her resolve faltered slightly, but she countered, "People crave authenticity now more than ever. I believe they want something that resonates with their experiences, not just a transaction. The discussions swirled like a tempest in response, some rallying for her vision while others hesitated, uncertain. As the meeting continued, the scrutiny shifted from skepticism to curiosity. Jack supported her, frequently referring back to her words, reinforcing her narrative while pushing the boundaries of conventional thinking. For the first time, Sarah felt a shift in the room, a palpable recognition of her role not just as a designer, but as a storyteller. Moments passed, tension lifting gradually, yet doubt still flicked at her confidence like a persistent shadow. Once the agenda concluded, a follow-up discussion was scheduled, which left her buzzing with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Walking back to her desk, she found herself reflecting on the day's whirlwind. Had she risen to the occasion? Or had she merely exposed herself to indifference? The vulnerability she displayed felt both liberating and terrifying, like walking on a tightrope strung high over the void of uncertainty. Jack caught up with her, clapping a supportive hand on her back. "You invited them into your world today," he said, a proud smile lighting up his features. "This can profoundly change how they view your work. You have the power to reshape their perspective." His words ignited a flicker of hope within her, but the lingering thought of her initial fears clawed at her composure. She was still questioning whether she had truly reached them or if she had simply revealed too much. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, signaling the end of the workday, a realization struck her. The choice had been made. Not only had she unveiled her past to the world, but she had also begun to redefine her identity as a designer and as a person reclaiming her narrative. But with that clarity came a nerve-wracking thought: what would happen if they didn't respond as she hoped? This was merely the beginning of a much larger transformation, and Sarah couldn't shake the anticipation that the true trial lay ahead. The moment was ripe, and Sarah felt not only the urge to push forward but an unyielding pull toward self-discovery. She would need to galvanize her vulnerability into strength. What would she find when she dared to tread deeper into the melding of her past with her future? The intensity of the journey ahead weighed on her, but she refused to back down now. As she left the office, breathless and charged, she pondered the looming challenges. The real question that hung heavy in the air was not just about her work, it was a matter of how far she was willing to go to uncover her truth while still striving for success in an unforgiving world. The next meeting would not simply be about feedback, it would be a moment of reckoning, a chance to confront the potential backlash of her choices. How would she navigate this path filled with both opportunity and peril? The sound of her phone vibrating on the desk broke through Sarah's thoughts, pulling her back to the present. It was a message notification from Jack. "Don't forget, we're prepping for tomorrow's follow-up. You've got this." The words were encouraging, yet her mind was trapped in the labyrinth of uncertainty. She felt as if the very ground beneath her was shifting, the stability she had once known eroding like sand in the surf. Tonight was not just about gathering her thoughts but also about fortifying her resolve. As she returned home, there was a bittersweet nostalgia in the air, the echoes of her past blending seamlessly with the present. The comforting chaos of her children's laughter and the haunting silence of her husband's absence surrounded her. Each moment was underscored by the weight of what had been lost, yet they also symbolized the resilience she had developed in the face of overwhelming grief. The kitchen countertop, littered with crayons and half-finished homework, became her sanctuary as she prepared dinner. It served as a reminder of the cases she juggled every day, the struggle to be both a nurturing mother and a passionate designer. Her children depended on her not just for care, but for an example of courage amidst adversity. She knew they watched closely, absorbing her actions and attitudes like sponges. Setting a pot of water to boil, she confronted herself in the reflection of the window. Who was she but a tapestry of experiences? Each thread joy, loss, hope woven intricately into her identity. But was it enough to inspire others? Tomorrow, she would face a crucible. The follow-up meeting would either solidify her place in the firm or expose her vulnerabilities to a team uncertain of her vision. With each stir of the sauce, she conjured the memory of her husband, his laughter, the shared dreams that had fueled their life together. Steeling herself against the emotional tide, she sought to harness that energy into a powerful catalyst. If she could infuse her design with the essence of those emotions, perhaps she could illuminate the way forward, not just for herself, but for everyone affected by loss and longing. After dinner, once the children were tucked into bed, Sarah took to her design studio. The room was aglow with dimmed lights and scattered sketches embodying her concept of spaces that resonate emotionally. She dissected every illustration, every line, questioning whether she had truly conveyed her narrative. But with every look, every touch, she uncovered elements she hadn't seen before, moments of potential, layers of meaning that whispered both challenge and promise. Her heart raced as she discovered something vital: she had the ability to evoke emotion through design. This was not merely a profession for her, it was a lifeline to others who had shared her struggles. In that electric moment, clarity dawned upon her. The struggle she faced personally was not a liability to hide, but a crucial component to embrace in her journey. As she prepared for bed, the weight of uncertainty morphed into something firmer, almost tangible. She would wrestle with her narrative and wield it like a sword. The next day would not just be about addressing her team's thoughts, it would be a moment of empowerment, an opportunity to stand unabashedly in her truth. What she did not know was that a voice, hidden among the attendees in tomorrow's meeting, would challenge her to go further, to confront not just the corporate skepticism, but her own fears of inadequacy. The path to transformation had opened, and Sarah was poised to step into the fray. There it was, the breath before the plunge into a deeper abyss of self-discovery. The day ahead bore not just the seeds of fear, but the potential for her designs to transcend beyond their visual appeal. Would she be able to claim her narrative, or would the pressure strip her of her authenticity completely? The questions hung thick in the air, swirling like the last echoes of a dream, urging her forward into the unknown. The day dawned with a cool crispness, a stark contrast to the turmoil simmering inside Sarah. She dressed with purpose, slipping into her favorite blazer, a vibrant blue that stood for resilience and a reminder of brighter days. As she applied her makeup, each stroke felt like an armor being donned for battle. The reflection in the mirror revealed a woman on the precipice of transformation, yet beneath the surface, doubt coiled tightly around her heart. Arriving at the office, Sarah navigated the familiar halls with newfound determination. Eager whispers fluttered among her colleagues, a blend of anticipation and skepticism about her presentation. She could sense their eyes measuring her confidence, eagerly gauging if she would falter or thrive. With every step toward the conference room, she breathed deeply, a mantra echoing in her mind: "I am more than my past, my vision matters." As she approached the glass doors of the meeting room, the weight of her narrative felt heavy, yet oddly invigorating. She wasn't just sharing designs, she was unraveling fragments of her soul, hoping to connect with those who had merely seen her as a role. The team filed in, an eclectic mix of seasoned professionals and new voices. Among them, her gaze fell on a figure with piercing insight, a newer executive who had made his way through the ranks, known for questioning the status quo. Jack initiated the meeting, gesturing for silence. Sarah's heart raced as she stood, placing her sketches carefully in front of her. Each illustration, a fusion of her emotions: love, grief, hope, was both a testament to her journey and a bridge toward a new vision. She began speaking, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "Design," she said, "is not simply about aesthetics. It's a language that speaks to our experiences, a vessel for memory and healing." As she navigated through her concepts, she began elucidating the emotional resonance tied to each space she had created. She discussed the importance of inclusive design that celebrated loss and resilience, but also rejuvenated hope. Her passion became palpable, she saw heads nodding, eyes lighting up, an unexpected affirmation. Yet then, like a determined wind, the executive's voice cut through her vision. "Sarah, while your designs are evocative, how do you expect us to dress this emotional narrative with profitability?" A chill enveloped the room. Her heart raced, nature seemingly colliding with corporate reality. In that ambiguous moment, she faced the shadow of her fears. Was she destined to always navigate between passion and practicality? Would this be where she faltered? Gathering her resolve, Sarah took a breath. "Profitability is undoubtedly essential," she countered, but consider this design influences behavior and emotional welfare. Our society is losing touch with these fundamental connections. What if we choose to be the voice of compassion in our market? What if our work could not only enhance spaces but also change lives? The audacity of her own suggestion surprised her, but it struck a chord in the room. She saw faces soften with contemplation, including that of the doubting executive, who momentarily paused. In those exchanged glances, perspectives shifted, something vital began to merge, a shared understanding of design as potential. With the meeting approaching its conclusion, Sarah sensed her momentum building, yet her internal dialogue raged. However, to embrace this vision, she knew she needed to confront something deeper, not just the skepticism of others but her own lingering fears of inadequacy. "Thank you for this opportunity to share," she concluded. "I invite concrete criticism, but I also ask you to consider how can we forge a future where our designs tell stories that resonate with the heart, instead of just the bottom line." Silence hung in the room, electrifying and thick. Would her peers rally behind this vision or let it slip into obscurity? As she collected her sketches, the executive met her gaze, a flicker of admiration mingling with uncertainty. The meeting ended, but her own revelation lingered. She stood at a crossroads, recognizing that she had only begun to challenge not just their expectations but her own limitations. The echoes of her past were now fuel, propelling her toward a future she was determined to shape. In the hall, she contemplated her next steps. A chance encounter, an unexpected challenge, awaited her, but she felt ready to seize it. As she prepared to walk out of the office, a familiar voice called her name. It was Jack, an expression of surprise etched across his features. "Sarah, I think you've got something there, but there's more you need to uncover. Tomorrow's meeting isn't just the end, it's the beginning of a deeper journey. Are you ready?" Her heart raced again, but one thing was crystal clear: this evolution would demand everything she had, challenging her to explore the uncharted territories of her resolve. What lay ahead was uncertain, but it was precisely the unknown that ignited her ambitions. Would she embrace the challenges, or would the trials ahead threaten to dismantle her newfound confidence? The following day felt different, charged with a heady mix of excitement and trepidation. Sarah arrived at the office early, the sunrise casting a golden hue over her workspace. With every click of her heels against the polished floor, she felt the weight of possibility hanging in the air, yet also the latent pressure of expectations. Jack's words lingered in her mind. "Are you ready?" They reverberated like a challenge, daring her to step beyond her perceived limitations. In the conference room, the atmosphere was electric. Her colleagues buzzed with chatter, eyes darting curiously towards Sarah as she set up her materials. She could feel the anticipation, and for the first time, there was a sense of camaraderie within the room. Every whispered question ignited a flicker of ambition. This wasn't just about her, it was about the potential of their collective vision. As she settled into her seat, her fingers trembled slightly, betraying the whirlwind of thoughts swirling inside. When Jack entered, the room fell silent. He took a moment to gauge the crowd, his demeanor relaxed yet authoritative. "Today," he announced, "we'll dive deeper into Sarah's vision. Let us challenge ourselves to think outside the box." His words sparked an ember of confidence in her, reinforcing the belief that this was not merely a presentation, it was a collaborative exploration. As Sarah began her presentation, she meticulously revised her approach, weaving in the constructive criticisms she had gathered from her previous meeting. Gone was the uncertainty. Instead, she focused on how design was a conduit for social change. What if we create spaces that not only invite people in but embrace their stories? She proposed. Imagine a community center that can hold laughter, grief, and hope, a sanctuary that celebrates every part of life. The room pulsed with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. Murmurs of interest flitted across the audience, and she found encouragement in the glances exchanged between her colleagues. Even the previously doubting executive leaned in, curiosity etched on his face. But just as she felt her confidence building, the shadow of doubt returned. Was she capable not only of delivering compelling ideas but of transforming them into reality? The memory of her previous struggles clawed at her, reminding her of failures that once felt insurmountable. Just then, a colleague raised a hand. "Sarah, do you really think we can convince our stakeholders to see design as more than a financial investment? They want numbers, results." Doubt flooded her mind, threatening the progress she had made. But in that moment, Sarah's resolve deepened. "What if we redefine profits?" she countered, the words feeling both audacious and liberating. "Success doesn't just come from dollars and cents, it comes from long-lasting community impact and customer loyalty. If we can connect emotionally with our clients, the financial gains will follow. Everyone benefits." A hush fell over the room. This was unfamiliar territory. She was not merely defending her concept, she was cornering their traditional perceptions of success. The potential conflict flickered brightly, but within her, the fire of determination grew. With each question, the discussion morphed from theoretical skepticism to genuine curiosity. By the time she closed her presentation, Sarah wasn't just presenting a vision, she was igniting a conversation. It wasn't just about her now, it was a shared path they were embarking on. As she wrapped up, Jack's expression held a profound approval. "What you've laid out today is groundbreaking. For the next steps, let us assign teams to brainstorm actionable strategies. Sarah, can you lead those discussions?" The question sent a thrill of panic coursing through her, but it was also an exhilarating validation. "Yes," she replied firmly, the words solidifying her commitment. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah felt lighter, yet the thrill was mingled with the anxiety of responsibility. The breakthrough she experienced wasn't just about professional development but also about self-acceptance. If she could lead this initiative, there might be a chance to reshape her narrative, the one that had been defined by doubt for far too long. As she gathered her materials, she was approached by a colleague, someone she had never connected with before. "Sarah, I've watched you for years. I see a spark in what you're doing, and I want to help." The unexpected offer sent ripples through her. Was this the beginning of a network she never knew she could build? Or perhaps, the opportunity to forge connections that had always felt out of reach? But before she could respond, Jack's voice intersected. "Sarah, there's one more thing. We have a distinguished speaker joining us next week, someone who has implemented similar social initiatives. This could be a turning point for you." Her heart quickened. What revelations lay in store? Would she be prepared to embrace the challenges that came with this new opportunity, or would the weight of expectation threaten to engulf her once again? The path ahead shimmered with promise, but she could not shake the feeling that something monumental awaited, just out of reach. The week felt like an unending series of escalations. Sarah threw herself into her preparations, fueled by the unexpected kindness of her colleague and the heightened expectations that now surrounded her. The reality of leading a discussion that could shape the future of the initiative sat heavily on her shoulders. Each time she glanced at her reflection in the glass office window, she weighed the person staring back at her, still wrestling with that persistent inner critic. Was she really the right person for this? The days blurred together as she oscillated between excitement and anxiety. Sarah immersed herself in research, dissecting case studies and strategizing the most effective way to convey her vision. There were moments of clarity when the project felt tangible, a vision excitedly forming in her mind. Other times, the immensity of the task sent chills down her spine, an uncomfortable reminder that the stakes had never felt higher. On the day of the meeting, the atmosphere was charged. Colleagues filed into the conference room with a sense of purpose. Sarah stood at the front, her presentation materials neatly arranged before her, every chart and diagram a representation of hours spent perfecting her arguments. Yet, as she made eye contact with Jack, who settled into his chair with a faint nod of encouragement, a swell of nerves surged again. Was she ready to lead, to stand firm against potential criticism? The distinguished speaker arrived promptly, a well-known strategist whose accolades resonated with every individual in the room. The speaker presented a narrative of triumph that echoed Sarah's aspirations, but with every word spoken, Sarah felt a nagging self-doubt. Would her vision resonate with the same weight? As the formalities of introduction wrapped up, it was finally time for Sarah to take the reins. She stood, pulse quickening, and cleared her throat. Thank you all for being here. Today, we seek to not only outline a new approach but to challenge our understanding of success in design, she began, determination lacing her voice. As she spoke, she felt the room responding. Colleagues leaned forward, intrigued, some even jotting notes. But a flicker of unease gnawed at her. Doubts crept in, whispering that she could be reduced to another comparison against the speaker's esteemed status. The heat of passion propelled her to engage directly with the audience, creating an interactive dialogue that shifted the atmosphere from one of formal presentation to informal collaboration. Let us consider what it means to succeed in our projects. Should it always be quantified by immediate metrics? Or can long-term impact redefine our benchmarks? She asked, catching their attention with her direct approach. Yet, whom was she trying to convince? The confidence she exuded was real in the moment, but deep within, the insecurities simmered. This was not just her presentation, it felt like an interrogation of self-worth. An attendee raised an eyebrow, challenging her. So, you're suggesting we discard traditional metrics entirely? Isn't that risky? Her heart raced. The question seized her in an unexpected way, and rather than retreat into defensiveness, she stood her ground. What's truly risky is clinging to outdated paradigms in a world that's constantly evolving. It's our responsibility to innovate. Only then can we build connections that matter. Inwardly, she was astonished by her own words. The rawness and sincerity of her response surprised her. Suddenly, the room felt like a shared space of ideas rather than a battleground of opinions. She and her colleagues were navigating this new reality together, she was no longer alone. The meeting ended, but the conversations did not. Colleagues formed impromptu groups, their enthusiasm palpable, and urgency filled the air with new plans and projects twinkling on the horizon. As she exited, she caught Jack's approving glance. That was a game changer, he said, his tone resonating with genuine encouragement. Walking back to her office, Sarah felt a shift within her. Had she just faced her greatest fear and emerged victorious? It dawned on her that the speaker's presence had not marginalized her, instead, it had propelled her to discover strengths she didn't know she possessed. But as she began to process the exhilaration of the day, another urgency nestled in her mind. If this was just the beginning, what would her next challenge be? The thought unfurled in her mind, the upcoming collaboration meant carving her path amidst rising expectations. The real test was still ahead, the moment of truth was fast approaching. Would she be able to maintain her momentum, or was it possible that the insecurities lurking beneath her newfound confidence could resurface, threatening to unravel everything she'd built? The following days unfolded with the exhilaration of a freshly ignited flame. Sarah dove headfirst into the collaboration, a collective endeavor pulsing with energy and vision. The momentum she had garnered sparked not only excitement but genuine camaraderie among her colleagues, a rarity in her corporate landscape. They were becoming partners rather than just peers. As she coordinated meetings and brainstorming sessions, Sarah began to perceive the complexities of leadership. It wasn't merely about guiding others but also about recognizing when to empower their voices. She observed her colleagues thrive under her encouragement, their ideas weaving seamlessly into the fabric of the project. It felt exhilarating, as though the very essence of a collaborative spirit stirred silently, waiting for her to awaken it. Yet with every achievement came the undercurrent of pressure, the shadows of her fears clamoring for attention. Would she truly be able to sustain the collaborative ethos? Could she nurture their confidence while continuing to believe in her own vision? The anxious thoughts haunted the edges of her accomplishments, yet within her, there was a deep-seated resolve to confront these uncertainties. When Jack suggested that Sarah present their collaborative progress to the executive board, she felt the earth tilt beneath her feet. "I think this could be a turning point for you, Sarah," he said, a steady belief shining in his eyes. While his faith buoyed her spirits, the thought of facing the board sent a jolt of anxiety through her. Would they see her as the same struggling widow who had nearly drowned in doubt? Or could she finally stand as a competent leader in her own right? Determined not to let her fears dictate her path, Sarah devised a rigorous preparation plan. She accessed every ounce of her design knowledge, conducting thorough research and aligning the project with industry standards and expectations. The drawing boards became her sanctuary, detailed sketches exploding into colorful visions on paper, each design aspiring to embody the emotional narratives that pulsed through her heart. On the day of the presentation, she stood before the board, nerves spiraling through her as she took in the room a mixture of steely executives and analytical minds, assessing her and her team. But when she spoke, a transformation took place. Her voice resonated with a blend of authority and authenticity. Today, we are not simply showcasing designs, we are inviting you into our vision for a future where design goes beyond surface aesthetics. It becomes a conduit for human emotion. As she navigated through the presentation, showcasing her team's collaborative contributions and the palpable excitement within the room, the shift began. Glances exchanged among board members indicated intrigue, and the energy she had cultivated in her team seemed to reverberate within the confines of the room. But just as Sarah felt she had captivated them, one of the board members leaned forward querulously, "You're pitching a lot of emotional appeal. But where's the data? How do we project return on investment from this narrative?" The question struck her like a bolt of thunder. For a moment, she hesitated, the shadow of her insecurities threatened to creep back. But in a flicker, she recalled her journey, the transformative moments she had experienced, and she steadied her resolve. By investing in emotional design, we're not just selling products, we're engendering loyalty, she explained. Research shows that consumers today are increasingly engaged with brands that resonate with their values and connections. Our unique approach can foster long-term relationships where profitability aligns organically with emotional integrity. The tension in the room fluctuated, and she sensed a shift as they began to see the business potential of her narrative, yet she needed to hammer home this point. Every unique story we tell translates into market reach and consumer connection, thus the potential for revenue can scale larger than conventional strategies. We must evolve our understanding of value, and our designs can lead that evolution. The board member's expression shifted from skepticism to curious consideration. Conversations bubbled around the table, ideas sparking between them, infusing the atmosphere with a dynamic energy that previously seemed absent. As her colleagues joined in, sharing insight and innovative ideas that built on her proposal, she realized that together they crafted an even more compelling narrative, a fusion of business and emotion that resonated powerfully with their audience. When the presentation concluded, Sarah felt a rush of accomplishment unlike any she had known before, but there was the additional sense of collective achievement. The board's reaction, interested inquiries and thoughtful suggestions affirmed that the seeds they had planted were beginning to bloom. They had engaged with her vision, opening a pathway to move forward. Days later, Jack approached her, a satisfied grin on his face. "I knew you could do it, Sarah. You weren't just presenting designs. You transformed the narrative into a compelling vision that resonated with them." Her chest swelled with pride, but she knew the journey was not over. The true resolution was about more than corporate recognition. It marked Sarah's metamorphosis. She had transcended from a grieving widow struggling to survive to a confident designer and leader driven by purpose and vision. In the weeks that followed, the project unfolded further, each meeting reinforcing her belief in her journey. As her confidence solidified, she took the lead with innovative designs that captured her emotional narrative intertwined with practical application. The project moved ahead, becoming a testament to the power of vulnerability, creativity, and the unyielding human spirit. One evening, after a particularly energizing design session, Sarah returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. She settled in beside her children and shared the stories weaving into her designs, realizing that through her work, she was imparting invaluable lessons on resilience, courage, and passion. That night, for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt complete, enveloped by a warmth that illuminated her once shadowed heart. She recognized her worth not defined merely by her past but by the potential of her future. Sarah had conquered the overwhelming currents of doubt and transformed not just her professional identity but her personal narrative. She had learned to embrace her vulnerabilities, using them as stepping stones towards greatness. In moments of triumph and challenge alike, she found that the threads of her past and her aspirations intertwined seamlessly, forging a tapestry of hope, purpose, and impactful design. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over her home, Sarah smiled. She was ready for a future defined by her choices, her voice, and her unbreakable spirit. Now, it's your turn to embark on a journey of transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment your reactions and theories about this riveting conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful message. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for stories that uplift and inspire. You need to subscribe now.